realize the problem, experience the problem using empathy, and define it. What is it that you are trying to resolve? Because this is also one of the things that I see as a coach, practicing coach since last about 12 years, that the biggest struggle many a times it happens, and some of you or all of you, those who are coaches, would know that at times there is a challenge that what goal we want to achieve, what is it that we are trying to resolve. Making it crystal clear is very, very important. This is where this design thinking approach will also be useful, not only in resolving the challenge at hand, but also defining it clearly.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you all are joining us from. I'm Kiva, and it's lovely to have you all join us for today's webinar, which is on coaching for innovation. Before I get to all the details about this webinar and I invite our guests for today, I'm going to just request you all to use the chat box and say a quick hello to us. Let us know where you're joining us from. We also have our team member, Yamini. Yes, she's right there, who'll be the chat box moderator. Thanks, Yamini. She's joining us from India, Bangalore. We have Archana from Pune. Welcome, Archana. Hello, everyone. Okay. We have Babu Raj from Cochin. Hello, Girish. Hello, Aravindan. Tanya. Hello, Monica. Dubai, Vadodara, South Africa, India, lots of different places in India. Nice, that's a mixed crowd. Very, very nice to see you all here today. Welcome to the Future of Coaching webinar. Today we don't have Ram or Pranav joining us, but we have with us Ujjaval, who is a senior faculty member at Coacharya and also a board member at Coacharya. Thank you so much, Ujjaval, for taking the time out. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. And our guest for today is Shiva. And I think most of you would have read the bio that we shared with you. Shiva is the co-founder of Biomimicry Compass. He is extremely, extremely passionate about biomimicry, design thinking, and any interaction that you have with him, you'll be left feeling absolutely amazed at the kind of knowledge that he has about these subjects. So we have an amazing, amazing person here with us today who's going to tell us about three beautiful concepts: biomimicry, systems thinking habits, and design thinking. And Ujjaval is going to help us to understand the intersections that lie with these three concepts, and will tell us a little bit more about just coaching for innovation. And just for our audience again today, before we get started, I know a lot of you have reached out to us checking about your resource development certificates. So for this webinar, you can claim an RD. All you'll have to do is attend this webinar, and then you'll hear from our team. You'll receive an email. There'll be a link that you need to click on, fill out some details, and you will receive your certificate right after. So that's it from my end. A warm welcome to everybody. And now over to you, Ujjaval and Shiva.
Thank you, Kiva.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Kiva. And it's my pleasure. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. And I'm very glad to have this discussion with you. And it is going to be a conversation. So please have the chat box running as well as the Q&A section running. The purpose Kiva has already set for all of us. And I'm going to share with you a bit of a background that how this whole thing shaped up. Okay, so Shiva, if you remember, we met in Chennai last December, and we were discussing about what kind of different approaches in coaching that we have tried, and how coaching can be an amazing instrument or a way of life which can help people bridge the knowing-doing gap. Because one of the biggest untapped human predicament is that people knowing what to do, perhaps knowing how to do, but perhaps they are not sure whether they are going to do it or not. Okay, so we discussed that how do we resolve this this particular dilemma, and how coaching can be a beautiful tool to bridge going from point A to point B. And Shiva brought this point very beautifully. He said that, Ujjwal, what you are saying is absolutely correct. However, there are several things which are not yet known to us. There are several pressing challenges that mankind has been facing, and there have not been, solutions which are sustainable. So the difference, as all of you know, I'm not getting into the dictionary definition of discovery and innovation, but how do you step into the field of the future and try and resolve some of the challenges that either you are facing as a leader, either you are facing as a family person, either you are a scientist, either you are into any kind of research and development, into product management, or you want to innovate something to lead a better life for yourself and for everybody else. So that is where Shiva, brought up this whole topic about biomimicry, and it was just amazing to listen to him. And then we spoke about systems thinking, then we spoke about design thinking, and whole point that came up as whatever Shiva was talking, I was connecting it with coaching and also spirituality. So that is where our founder Ram, who happens to be our teacher, our mentor, all of you would know him. Ram suggested that why not both of you work together to see, both of you are convinced about the intersections and synergies that coaching and these three topics, can you partner to create something which will help people solve their known or unknown challenges in much better way, and there is less suffering for the world. And before I hand it over to Shiva, I just would like to tell you that listening to him is treat. Why? Because he teaches at one of the most premier technology institutions that we have in India, which is Indian Institute of Technology at Madras, or which is now known as Chennai, but name of the institute is known as IIT Madras. And he teaches to one of the most brilliant brains that passes out from the one of the toughest exams that any student can face, and he teaches them how to become a better innovator, better engineer, better researcher with a human heart. Okay, so I would invite Shiva to talk about these three topics, and also whenever I'm invited, I'll just connect it with coaching. So ultimately, we need the world to be in better shape, better place, and this world needs coaching and coaches more than ever before. Likewise, learning from Mother Nature also more than ever before. Yeah. So over to you, Shiva.
Thank you, Ujjwal. It's. I don't even know how to start, how to express my emotion right now, because when I started learning biomimicry, I did not think that we would reach a stage where we are talking about coaching and biomimicry. But after I spoke to you, like you said, I think the whole concept start to merge together. So I to make it easy for all the participants, thank you very much, all of you, because I'm deeply indebted to all of you for being here. I know it's difficult to take 1 hour away from your busy life, but in spite of that, if you're here, it's really very very gratifying, and lots and lots of gratitude to all of you. Thank you, Ujjwal. Thank you, Coacharya, for arranging this. So I'm going to be talking about we have about an hour, and I want Ujjwal has been a great coach. I'm learning so much from him. So I would like this session to be both Ujjwal's time and my time. So I'm going to invite him several times in this session so that he's able to connect the three topics that we're talking about. But in order to help us understand what we're going to do in the next 1 hour, I have a slide presentation. I have four things to speak about. The first, of course, is intersection. and which is why we are here. So I have about 4 slides on sections. I'll introduce the concept in intersections to you. Then I will speak about biomimicry for about 5 minutes. Ujjaval will then connect the biomimicry principles that we speak about to coaching and how they intersect. And then I'll talk about design thinking for about 5 minutes. And then Ujjaval will connect design thinking to coaching. Then I'll speak about the system thinking habits, and Ujjaval will sum up what he can from the connecting the system thinking habits and coaching. So at the end of 1 hour, all of us, including all your questions and all that, we should go away with a very embellished view of coaching, right? So that's the plan. I'm going to start sharing my screen. So just to help us understand why we are here, why this whole topic has come up, why this seminar, and all that, I'm going to talk about this brilliant creativity tool called intersections. Now, and that's why we are here. Intersection is a place that ideas from different disciplines come together and create a new idea. So one of the examples, and there's a lovely book called The Medici Effect by Franz Johansson, where he talks about intersections. So therefore, this is a classic example of intersections. This is, of course, the Cirque du Soleil, which was invented, I must say, invented by Guy Laliberté in Canada. But what is interesting about Cirque du Soleil, it's an intersection between the circus and the theater. So you will find people, for instance, if you're looking at Cirque du Soleil with a Shakespeare play, you'll probably find the characters on a trapeze. And that's what intersections do for you. 2 ideas merge together to create a new idea. How do intersections happen? Intersections are widely different ideas that come together, and you step into the intersection. You step into that place where 2 ideas come together to think about a new idea. And finally, of course, the question therefore is, can we create new solutions? Which is what we are trying now. Right now, what Ujjaval and I and all of you here are trying are there new intersections we can create between coaching and biomimicry, coaching and design thinking, etc. What can be the new topics that we can learn? And the third question is the most interesting question. Can I learn, for instance, how to cook from a gardener? Is there a connection between cooking and gardening? So the whole question is, can we be very, very adventurous and try and find out if there are intersections that exist that we haven't explored yet? So that is what really excited me to speak to Ujjaval and find out if there are intersections between these topics. Ujjaval.
Yeah, thank you for that, Shiva. And there is a question from Sai, which I have replied, but wants to know that, is biomimicry one of the oldest sources of design? So I responded by saying that yes, but it is largely untapped. So we are going into that section, but just wanted to validate this with you before we get into that topic.
Yes, you're right, because it is the oldest, because 3.8 billion years old and all that. So there can't be anything older than that. Thanks, Sai, for that. So, but the only problem is, I think 1998 is when Janine Benyus wrote that great book on biomimicry, and suddenly the world is woken up to biomimicry. So can I, Ujjaval, go to the biomimicry section so that, we can start the...
Yes, Shiva. I'll just add one sentence while you bring up the slide. Is this that intersections with coaching and interconnections with coaching is so amazing that I was just enamored by that, and that's how this whole thing shaped up. So thank you for your patience during the whole process, Shiva.
So, I'm just very briefly, very, very briefly going to talk about biomimicry, because I know that this is not, we don't have enough time for it, but I'd love to maybe come back some other day and speak longer. But essentially, biomimicry is this: practice that learns from and mimics the strategies of nature in order to solve human challenges. the core, when you go away from this webinar and someone asks you what is biomimicry, there's only one sentence to say, which is we learn from nature. We don't learn about nature. We learn from nature. We learn from nature. So instead of simply saying wow to nature, we also say how. The next slide is even more revealing. For instance, on the left is something all of us studied in school. Every one of us has studied botany in some way or the other, biology in some way or the other. So in biology, we learn about nature, while in biomimicry, we learn from nature. So when we look at a tree, our whole perspective of what a tree changes. We know that the name of the tree is neem, but we also know that there is a canopy that humidifies air and increases inland participation. We also know that leaves capture solar energy with non-toxic and biodegradable materials. We also know limbs create structural support with minimal materials. We also know that trunks move water against gravity. Now, the whole question is, on the left is what I learn about nature. On the right is I learn from nature. But the purpose of the learning is to do something in the human world and copy what nature is doing. For instance, if I want to take water from the ground floor to the 4th floor, can I learn from the tree and look at how to transport water without electricity, without a pump? The answer is yes, it is possible, because there is a process in biomimicry. There's a process in biomimicry that starts with the problem definition. I want to transport water. The next is, how does nature transport water? Then look at the strategies of nature and use that strategy to build a waterless, an electricity-less, motorless pump that takes water from ground to top. Only thing, we need to work hard and try and make this happen. But the principles are there, the knowledge is there with the tree. So the tree becomes our teacher now, because she is telling us how to do these things. And then, of course, the next portion of biomimicry. So nature is very clever, right? When we make dyes, we pollute the atmosphere and all that. When nature makes color, she doesn't do that. When nature manages traffic, she doesn't get into a traffic jam. When we manage traffic, we do have traffic jams. And we can learn from termites how we can manage traffic. Nature as model, measure, and mentor. This is probably the big slide for coaching, because we are looking at nature as a model. How can we model our lives after nature? How can we measure our lives after nature? And how can nature be a mentor to us? For this, we emulate the technology of nature. We emulate what the strategies of nature. The ethos of nature this is something that I have literally fallen in love with, because look at that line. Look at that line. The underlying aspirations behind something, that life creates conditions conducive to life. What it really means is that life offers hope, that nature somehow regenerates, somehow takes care of itself. Nature is born, nature is died. The seasons come, the rains come, and somehow the nature sees to it that everything around nature is alive and well. It never destroys. And finally, reconnect. How can we? This is, it's very strange sometimes when you look at nature as a third person. But tell me, really, is there not a connection between every one of us and nature? Why are we even referring to nature as a third person? So the whole point in biomimicry is, can I reconnect to nature? And the nature's design principles are something that coaching, that I don't know what will benefit more, biomimicry or coaching. I'm going to let Ujjaval decide that. Look at these design principles of nature. Nature uses only the energy it needs. Is there a coaching lesson there? Look at this. Is there a coaching lesson here? Nature recycles all materials. This is what nature does when nature makes design. Is there a lesson here? Nature is resilient to disturbances. Pine trees, they have two types of cones. The first cone is destroyed along with the pine tree when there is a fire. The second cone is so designed that it will open up only when there is enough heat on the ground, which means after the fire, the second cone bursts open to create a new forest. Can we learn something from optimizing? Can we learn something from providing mutual benefits? Can we learn something from nature runs on information? Can we learn something from this? Nature uses chemistry and materials. Can we learn? This is, abundant resources, incorporating rare resources only sparingly. Can we learn from this? Locally attuned and responsive. Nature never goes very, very far away to bring back marble to build houses in Chennai. There are people who go all the way. I'm not judging. I'm just saying that's what we do. And finally, nature uses shape. The shape of the coconut tree itself is so designed that it's functional. Not only is the tree tall, but also the tallness of the tree helps the tree get enough sunlight. And finally, I don't have the time to talk about the entire biomimicry, but you can see how powerful this is, right? You can already see the intersections, and we would love you to share these intersections. And this is what it is. I'm just explaining one of those design principles. Nature is locally attuned and responsible. Brilliant case study called Jeevan Bindi, where there was widespread problem of iodine deficiency for rural women in India. What did Jeevan Bindi do? What they did was they found that the local women applied the bindi as a tradition, and instead of force them to take iodine, they made an iodine patch, which was in the shape of a bindi, and it solved the problem of iodine deficiency. So what we are learning is that this is what nature does. Nature is locally attuned. Nature understands what is around and uses what is around in order to make design. So I'm going to stop there, Ujjaval. I'm going to stop there and let you take over. But that is what biomimicry is.
So just to connect, okay, so how this beautifully gets connected. So when I was enamored completely by what Shiva brought about biomimicry to me, I said that now, see, Mother Nature is there. I don't know whether I have been able to understand Mother Nature, but I'm certainly sure I haven't been able to understand my mother-in-law's nature, even after 25 years of marriage life. But I'm not going to attempt that. But the whole thing is that if I am supposed to learn from Mother Nature, look at core competency 2. I'm not sure all of you are coaches, but assuming that all of you are coaches, core competency 2, which is about embodies coaching mindset, it talks about 4 qualities of a coach: open, curious, flexible, and client-centered. Yeah. So if I remain open to learn from Mother Nature, because see, as a coach, when you are coaching somebody, we are using several tools and techniques. Now, if one of them could be Mother Nature, so can you have, like Tarun beautifully said, that is Mother Nature a coach? Yes, she could be your co-coach. Of course, you may have to just ask for what is the revenue sharing you are going to do with Mother Nature, but it's also about mentor. So in biomimicry, we believe that every problem that we are facing today, Mother Nature has faced it in some way or the other and has resolved it in its own way. So can we learn, can we incorporate that and use coaching? And for that, one of the core competency, coaching competency that will be required is to cultivate trust, which is CC4, partially CC4, core competency 4. And also one would need to be present. Yeah. And listen to whom? Not listen to yourself, but also listen to Mother Nature. Perhaps some of them said, those of you know Dr. Fritjof Capra, he's also an amazing systems thinker. He said in this book, Systems View of Life, and you can go on his website also, he has written this beautiful blog, assuming we are already 50 years ahead and what COVID is teaching us. Have we learned something from it? Says that COVID was sent to teach us a lesson, perhaps help us pause and reflect, what are we doing to Mother Nature? So something like that. So can we listen to Mother Nature and work on evoking our own awareness and also evoking our clients' awareness towards learning from Mother Nature? I think I really liked when somebody wrote early on. I'm sorry, I'm not able to remember the name, but somebody mentioned here in the chat box that it's like how she's learning resilience. I think Kamini wrote that, right? So is she learning from learning resilience from her garden? Absolutely, that's kind of a biomimicry. Yeah. So that's where I see the connection with biomimicry and how it gets integrated. Shiva, back to you.
What did we discuss? We discussed what is biomimicry. We discussed uh, that the biomimicry is learning from nature, and not learning about nature. We looked at a tree as a teacher, and we said there are several aspects of the tree that we can learn from. We also looked at, and there are other things to biomimicry that we did not do now. We also said that there is a way, there's a process by which you go from problem definition to problem, solution. And in that process, there's one question, which the question is, I want to do something, how does nature do it? So if I have a problem, I want to make fabric, that remains clean. It's the problem statement. The second question is the complete shift question, which is, how does nature remain clean? And then you look at the lotus leaf. The lotus leaf is constantly clean. Why? Because the lotus leaf is so designed that when water falls on the lotus leaf, the microstructures on the lotus leaf wash the water away. And along with the water, the dirt is washed away. And therefore, now you tell yourself, oh, I'm seeing an engineer who can actually manage to keep herself clean. And then you imitate that strategy of the lotus leaf. You try and make a fabric that is similar to the lotus leaf. And when you wear that shirt remains clean. There's actually a company called Lotusan Paint, Lotusan, which makes paint. And if you paint your house with that paint, then your house remains cleaner than other paints. So what we are learning is a strategy, is a way of learning from nature. But it's not just technology alone. You can learn team building from nature. You can learn how to get along from nature. There are several human resource aspects that we can learn from nature too. And the design principles that we saw, those 10 design principles, are the design principles that nature uses in order to make design. The ethos of biomimicry is that life creates conditions conducive to life. So all this put together, the question now is, how do we connect it to coaching, which Ujjaval just saw, right? So what I'm going to do, thank you, Ujjaval. So I'm now going to design thinking, because we said we'll look at all the three aspects. So design thinking, I have only 3 slides. Just want to introduce it, so I give more time to Ujjaval, because this is something that many of you may identify with. So we finished with biomimicry. We're going to come back maybe later and all that. But right now, essentially design thinking is so this is, I thought this is probably very, very critical for this webinar, because we're talking about the 7 mindsets for design thinking. Of course, we start with empathy. And I think all of us as coaches have understood the power of empathy. But here in design thinking, empathy is used more for looking for problems to solve. Because sometimes identifying a problem is more difficult in creativity than looking for solutions. Solutions are easy. Ideation is the easiest thing in the world. But can I actually look for a problem? Actually, many of you may be interested to know that in IIT Madras, we actually have what is called an empathy walk, where the design thinking students go around the campus looking for problems. So there is this person who will say, I want to empathize with the watchman, and become the watchman for about 3 hours. And then at the end of 3 hours, he notices that his knees start to pain. And once his knees start to pain, as an engineer, he asks himself, how do I resolve that pain? So the problem statement that he comes up with, how might I relieve the watchman of knee pain? Now that has come, the problem didn't exist before, but the problem exists now simply because of the tool of empathy. And can we use empathy? Of course, we use empathy in coaching, but this is a very good tool to understand how we can use empathy in order to elicit from the coachee what the problems are. And of course, there's always ambiguity, like Ujjaval keeps saying, we're always walking into the unknown. So therefore, embrace ambiguity. Optimism is all of us have by way of coaching. We love to be optimistic because we pass on the optimism to the coachee also. Iterate is important because it's not always that we come up with the right problem definition or the right problem right idea, right? We keep on going back. And creativity, design thinking is the only subject where you are allowed to fail. It's okay to fail. The more failing, the better, because you start to understand maybe I chose the wrong problem to solve. Maybe I chose the wrong idea to implement. And therefore, iterate is an important part of design thinking. And learning from failure, I just said. And finally, after we have ideated, we just don't leave it aside. We actually implement, just like in coaching. So I thought the design thinking mindset and coaching, there's lots and lots of stuff we can exchange and we can learn from. So essentially, this is the process. You will have a problem. You say, how do I approach the challenge? How do I interpret the challenge? What do I create? Ideation. I have an idea. How do I build it? And how do I evolve it? This is a more interesting slide. We learn in design thinking that once you have a challenge, and then you frame the question, and third, you generate ideas, but it's a huge BUT here, simply because you don't immediately implement the idea, you prototype the idea. You test the idea, you test the prototype. After I have created the design, I go to about 10, 15, 20 people and say, this is the solution I have. How do I test it? How does it look? I get feedback from the customer and I implement it. So can we follow similar rules? Can we pick up many of these things into coaching is the quest. Ujjaval.
Yeah, absolutely, Shiva. Very, very well said. I think I'm going to put a spotlight on one point which you mentioned earlier. I think it is important to define the problem so explicitly, so clearly, then only you can resolve it. Yeah. So, for example, if I go to a doctor and say that there is something happening to me, I don't know what's happening to me. Can you please help me resolve it? Now, doctor will not know unless we exactly say, how do we have, whether do we have a headache or a body ache or whatever is happening, unless I describe clearly how he or she is going to treat me. Yeah. So in that kind of a situation, design thinking also helps us to define the problem so clearly that you can resolve it. Like what Shiva mentioned about becoming a security guard for about 3 hours. You step into the character of that person and experience what he or she is feeling. And on that basis, you realize the problem, experience the problem using empathy and define it. What is it that you are trying to resolve? Because this is also one of the things that I see as a coach, practicing coach since last about 12 years, that the biggest struggle many a times it happens, and some of you or all of you, those who are coaches, would know that at times there is a challenge that what goal we want to achieve, what is it that we are trying to resolve. Making it crystal clear is very, very important. This is where this design thinking approach will also be useful, not only in resolving the challenge at hand, but also defining it clearly. Yeah.
Ujjaval, I also thought there is a lot of sense in prototyping.
Yes.
For actually implementation, because
yes,
many times as a coach, there is this agreement that we build with the coachee saying this is what will happen over the next few, so instead of prescribing or instead of letting the coachee say, okay, this is what I'll do, can we test it for some time, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe test the solution for some time, and then maybe so I was thinking Do you or do you not think that there is a connection between before actually implementing something, there is the scope for testing whether the solution is
Yes.
working or not?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So that brings me to again to coaching competencies, where it talks about facilitates clients' growth. So so there are questions about when you want to go, and also Shiva, I would like to mention here that it is also not nature of the brain to do prototyping. You will have to train it, because brain goes for all or nothing. Either it will go full hog or it will not act at all. But to do something in moderation, to do prototyping and testing, one definitely would need that approach that let me try it. And I think one of the things, one of our conversations you mentioned, Shiva, which I remember you for, apart from many other things that I definitely remember you for, is this: that what is that smallest step which you want to take today, in which you are guaranteed not to fail? Because inertia to action is also one of the brain's way of working. It wants to maintain homeostasis. So basically, uh, the, 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 the course that we are planning to launch is also containing these aspects of that, how human brain works, how human emotions work, and how do we learn from Mother Nature, as well as how do we apply these design thinking principles so that we create a better life for ourselves and people around us.
Yeah, thanks, Ujjaval.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I learned last week about design thinking was that every one of these steps, right? And I shared it with my students that once you complete a step, Ujjaval, it's sort of a success, right? So there are 5 successes. So similarly in coaching, when we go from one step to the other, the coaching itself, there can be, we can term our coaching to be a success both for us and for the coachee once we have arrived at what is the problem that we want to solve. Then once we have, so therefore the whole, instead of saying has the entire coaching be a success, can we divide coaching into various parts and go from one success to the other, one success to the other,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
what design thinking teaches us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, fully agreed. And then, so that is, so somebody asked me, Shiva, the other day that, okay, so what is coaching? So I said it in my own way. I'm not sure whether that definition is fully correct or not, but I just went on explaining it in a simplified way. I just said that coaching is an amazing tool for managing transition from point A to point B, or orbit A to orbit B, by taking micro actions in a sustainable way, in a consistent way, towards the direction of your goal, which is point B or orbit B. So that is where design thinking as an approach will be useful. That how do you not rush into, and how do you prototype before you scale?
And Ujjwal, this design thinking has a lot of iteration, right? All I keep telling
Yes.
students to go back to the problem statement, then ideation. It's not just a linear thing saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
keeps also, I think that will also trigger in coaching, right? Where we keep on going back and forth and back and
Yes, yes. Go back to the drawing board. Also, no, don't miss the source and also the destination, and keep going back to the drawing board. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
So, all right. So, biomimicry, I think all of us here should try and try and find out what could be the intersections between biomimicry and coaching, between design thinking and coaching. And I come to the final topic that we are talking about, which is systems thinking habits. Um, I I so I teach the system thinking habits. So it's not systems thinking, but the system thinking habits. I'm just very briefly going to explain to you what the habits are. Of course, before we start with the habits, I'm going to talk about system thinking by itself. We all of us, I think all of us know that the digestive system is, for instance, it's everything, right? You can't just say, let me only have the mouth, let me not have the stomach. You have, in order to digest food, we have the mouth, the tongue, the epiglottis, salivary glands, pharynx, esophagus, liver, gallbladder. All this make up the digestive system. The mouth cannot say, I want to exist in isolation, because the mouth depends on the tongue depends on the epiglottis depends on the esophagus. And this is how we understand a system. So therefore, system consists of elements, interconnections, and function of purpose. Just like all of us are a system, our family is a system, IIT Madras is a system, all the coaching community is a system, the government is a system. There are systems that interdepend on each other, are interconnected to each other. Once we learn this, we also learn this brilliant picture. I think it's brilliant because it helps you immediately understand the difference between a heap and a system. The heap on the left side is nothing changes. If you remove some sand, the sand remains the same. But on the right, we have a house. And if I remove the foundations of the house, the whole system collapses. So we start to learn that each one of us is dependent on each other. And this dependency makes us interconnected and makes the system purposeful. Now, this is systems thinking. But we're not really talking about systems thinking as much as we're talking about the systems thinking habits. What we teach at IIT Madras and elsewhere are the 14 habits of a systems thinker. I don't have the time to talk about all the habits, but I'm just going to talk about two and try and connect it to coaching. For instance, the two habits these are the 14 habits. You can look at the website. It's called Water Center for Systems Thinking. So what we do is we look at these habits and teach these habits to the students at IIT Madras who use these habits for their own growth, for their own problem identification, for understanding a problem. So the habits help you understand a problem, help you understand why problems happen. I have found that the habits are a brilliant way to understand the problem. So there are only two habits that I'm going to talk about now. The first habit is, of course, a systems thinker seeks to understand the big picture. For us, not only for us, but even in my own life, this habit has come in useful many times. When I fail, when something very, very, very unhappy happens to me in my life, I'm normally so overwhelmed by the unhappiness that I don't think of anything else. But after this habit, I've started to take myself, I keep a helicopter ready, a virtual helicopter ready in my house. And whenever I need to understand my life, I put myself in the helicopter and go up and look at my life. And I start to understand that this small unhappiness, whatever I'm doing is important, but not so important that I forget the big picture. And as we go by, we learn more and more about the big picture and all that, practice the big picture. The second habit I want to talk about today is this one. This is something that I was completely dumbfounded by when I read that a system thinker recognizes that the system structure generates its behavior. So for instance, supposing you come to my house and a structure can be physical or it could be mental. So supposing you come to my house and there's a sofa in the living room. By keeping the sofa in the living room, I have already communicated to you that you are allowed only in the living room. So therefore, the structure generates its behavior. And supposing I want to lose weight and I'm walking towards my home every day, and on the way to my house, there are several restaurants. I'm tempted to eat in that restaurant. I will never lose weight because the structure that I have followed prevents me from losing weight. Similarly, when I wake up in the morning, as soon as I wake up in the morning, if I'm going to be looking half an hour at WhatsApp and half an hour reading the paper, I'll never reach office on time because I've created a structure that helps me waste time. So these are the two habits that I thought I will share with you now. But for those of you who are interested, the Water Center is a brilliant place to look at the habits. Ujjaval.
Yeah, thank you, Shiva. As I was reflecting on what you were sharing, what came up for me is this, that, systems thinking habits helps people see interconnections and interdependencies of a larger system that they are a part of. So if I am a manager, or I am a homemaker, or I am a family person, I'm into my friends group, anywhere, I need to know that I am a part of a system which is largely invisible. Okay. And as Dr. Marshall Goldsmith says in his book Triggers, that our ecosystem impacts us in more than our imagination, more than the ways of our imagination. So how we look at the systems approach to become aware of our problem, go through the reflection process, to generate the insights, and also to take actions. So this systems thinking habit is going to provide a complete interrelated combination of how do I look at my problem and also solve it by taking action. The whole life cycle of a client. Okay. So, and where coaching comes in. Okay, coaching comes in when I look at the entire thing. Also, not to forget, although you meant to mention that, Shiva, nature is never unethical. So how do we also bring coaching ethics here while we coach? Yeah. Also, how do we bring unconditional positive regard? How do we bring empathy, which you have already mentioned? And also, how do we bring congruence? Nature never tells something and does something. Yeah. So all important thing is that these three things, okay, design thinking, systems thinking, habits, and also biomimicry, this whole point, three combining together, we are going to offer a complete new way to coach your clients. Okay. Now, you will have several tools with you already. Can these three things can offer you to coach people who are suddenly completely, in confusion about their future. They are unable to cross that mental barrier, mental wall that they have in mind. Can you help them to break down that wall and help them create the same stones? Can you help them create that bridge with, instead of a wall, a bridge to help them reach where they want to reach? Yeah. So this is going to be a very, very powerful combination. And just for some of you who might be interested to know that Shiva and I, we are going to start a course. It is going to be a foundation course. Also, it is going to be an advanced course. And also, those of you know that in order to apply that, sometimes suppose if you are an innovation professional, you are a scientist, you are an R&D professional, or you are a researcher, or you are just a simple executive coach who perhaps want to help the clients. Now, in that kind of a situation, you may not be able to deploy the things alone. If you are working for, say, UN SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, you may not be able to impact alone. You may need your team to do that. So we also have combined team coaching as a part of this program. So if you sign up for the whole thing, then it is going to be 30 weeks. And we are going to learn design thinking, systems thinking, and biomimicry combined with coaching at L1 and L2 levels, basic and advanced levels. Also, team coaching is also an option if somebody wants to pick that up. Okay, now or later, that's your choice. But there could be a question, Shiva. Somebody asked me, yes, 30 weeks for level 1, level 2, and team coaching, which is ACTC. It will prepare you for the full package. But suppose if you want to go for only L1, and then it is going to be 13 weeks. Okay, and so on and so forth. Our Coacharya team will be more than happy to respond to your further queries on that. But also, Shiva, somebody asked me that, I'm going to be an internal coach for our organization. Okay, and we are into information technology. Somebody said we are into manufacturing and we are in old economy business. So I don't know how much of these innovation and R&D and those kind of stuff is going to be useful. Can it be for an everyday executive coach who is an internal coach who is dealing with mostly about retention, engagement, promotion, or collaboration related challenges, can this course be useful? So what I have offered to them, that not only we are going to bring those everyday organization and leadership aspects or executive coaching aspects into this program, because you can learn from Mother Nature on that also, how nature collaborates, how nature deals with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yeah. But not only that, but also apart from these tools, three major tools and way of life that we are going to teach together. I also offered that if anybody is keen, I can also offer additional 4 sessions for which they don't have to pay anything extra. But if you are an everyday executive coach, external or internal, or a leadership coach, then you can learn some of the tools which are apart from biomimicry, design thinking, and systems thinking habits, several other tools like polarity management, neuro-linguistic programming and coaching, appreciative inquiry and coaching, gestalt and coaching. So we are going to offer that. Details also will be available with our Coacharya operations team. So that also you can inquire if you are interested. Yeah. But Shiva, I believe you wanted to add something.
I'm saying, see, when you're talking about design thinking, we'll also be adding a lot of ideation tools like lateral thinking and thinking tools. And when there's also a lot of tools to frame problem statements. How do I frame a problem statement? Right? So what is a narrow problem? What is a broad problem? What is a just right problem? So therefore, all these tools and prototyping tools, what could be the prototyping tools? So the whole gamut of scope in design thinking is what we'll be teaching. And and the whole point is uh, I think it'll be co-created by all of us as participants, because there could be something that I don't see that a participant sees. So every session will be a co-created session. So what is it that I see in biomimicry that is related to coaching? What is it that I see in design? It only helps us become better coaches because we have more tools to choose from. We have more armory to choose, if I may use the word, to choose from, right?
Yeah. Wonderful. So yes, any questions? I believe Srini had raised his hand. Srini, would you like to ask your question? Or in case you want to type it here in the chat box. Okay, Kiva, is it possible to unmute Srini? He wanted to ask his question
Yes.
or wanted to express something. Yeah, and thank you for emerging like a
Sorry, Shukran.
sunshine, how Mother Nature does every day. Yes.
Can you hear me, Ujjaval?
Yes, Srini.
Yeah. First of all, thanks, Shiva and Ujjaval. It's a very beautiful, concept which I exposed to this hour. I also want to understand, how practical, the sessions would be. I know today we got very high level concepts, but if one of you can actually give an example as a participant, if you take an example of any problem or an issue, how I'm going to, make use of those sessions, that would be a wonder thing. Or maybe a case, or maybe, what you
Yeah.
got from the earlier, participants like me, Ujjaval.
Sure. Shiva, would you like to talk about the
So,
practical exercises and how the learning can be
Yes.
applied in work situations?
So, Srini, as far as biomimicry is concerned, there are two aspects to biomimicry. One, you will have a lot of questions, a lot of applications of biomimicry. So, you will actually work on a problem. For instance, one of the problems that you will work on is, let's say, you define the problem as I want to conduct. I want to have a stronger team, right? I want to build a stronger team. So this will be the problem given to you. And we are going to ask you to go through the entire biomimicry process yourself. And you will have to say, how does nature build teams? Because lots of animals and insects in nature do build teams. Then you yourself go to a beautiful web page called asknature.org, where the entire about 2,000 organisms are listed in Ask Nature, from who you learn the strategies of nature. And then after having learned the nature, you come back and say, Shiva, Ujjaval, this is the way nature does it, and this is my strategy for building a team. And then as far as the design principles that we explained are concerned, again, you will be asked to come out with very, very practical examples on how you will handle those 10 principles in situations that you have. We are not going to be teaching as much as we are going to be facilitating. Design thinking, again, the opportunities are enormous because again, you will start with a problem. And importantly, more than the success at the end of the design thinking process, what we are concerned about is whether or not you get familiar with each and every one of those processes. Whether your empathy, whether you can raise your empathy level from 5 to 8, whether you start to defining problems with a lot of ease, whether you're able to generate about 20 ideas given the tools, and out of those ideas, you choose 2 or 3 ideas, and from those ideas, you try and find out if you can implement those ideas. And finally, of course, there is no doubt about the system thinking. The system thinking habits is where I think maximum applicability comes in, because no, I'm going to ask you, Srini, for instance, supposing I'm going to ask you to draw a map of from 18 to 80, right? I'm going to say, look at the big picture of that, and what could be the small hiccups that could come on the way, and how will you look at your own life using the big picture? So you have 14 habits to choose from, and I'm sure by the end of this course, you will tell me, Shiva, why don't you let you start doing the work and stop me from doing the work?
Okay, super. Thank you, Shiva.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and also just to add to what Shiva has mentioned, learn by doing is going to be the flavor, because of course we need to learn by learning, but learn by doing also is going to be the flavor. So also, Srini, we are also going to work on how do you use that with your client. Okay, so when you have your peer coaches, you can use them as your client, and when you are going to do that, this course will require you to ballpark and commit to roughly about 6 hours in a week, where 3 hours in a week we meet on Zoom, and remaining 2.5 to 3 hours in a week, you will practice what you have learned, because otherwise it will remain as a knowledge, it will not become skill. So how to use it in coaching as well as solving some of your own matters if you wish to work on. Yeah, that's what just I wanted to add.
So I hope those 3 hours on Zoom as well, if I understand, it will be in the weekends, not in the working days.
It is going to be Friday evenings. Are you by any chance in India?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Yeah, so this is going to be Friday evenings, 6:30 to 9:30 India time.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. Yep.
Yeah. Yes, Arvindan. Kiva, can we request to unmute Arvindan?
Yes, Ujjwal, just doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Arvindan, yes.
Yes, you can unmute Arvindan.
Arvindan, you had unmuted yourself. If you could do that again, and then you can speak to us.
Arvind, you need to unmute, Arvind.
Yes. Yes. Oh.
I think you're not able to.
Yes, I think there's either a technical glitch or...
Okay.
And also responding to Monica in the chat box, question answer. Yes, Monica, in case you are there on the call, this is going to be for anybody who is starting afresh. Okay, so you don't need to feel intimidated with these concepts. This is going to be a foundation course. So anybody who has not been coach before, we are going to deal with everything in a way that it makes you a coach and also a facilitator of these three amazing concepts. And you don't need to have a prerequisite to be a coach. But yeah, also for somebody who is willing to you have already done your foundation course and you want to learn these way of coaching, you're also most welcome to join level 2, which you can join for PCC call. Yeah. Yeah, great, Monica. Thank you for asking. Okay, any more questions, any more clarifications? Otherwise, Shiva, I, and Kiva, we would like to thank you everyone for joining today. And any last comments from you, Kiva?
I just want to thank Shiva and Ujjwal, both of you, for this wonderful webinar. And it was really, really amazing to learn everything. I think I've been talking to you both about all of these concepts, but you put it beautifully for all of us today. And also want to thank all our lovely participants who've asked so many questions, shared their thoughts on the comment box. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you want to know more about this course, you want any details about this course, you can connect with our team by writing to us at contact@coacharya.com, and we'll connect with you and answer all your queries. Thank you so much for joining us. And as we are closing out, we just have one last update for the participants here today. You can claim an RD, Resource Development Certificate, for this webinar. If you're looking for more RDs, we also have thought leadership sessions that happen. So we have one that's happening tomorrow. Yamini, I'll request you to just share the details on the chat box. And that's also a session for which you can claim a resource development certificate. So that's it from my end. Thank you so much again, Shiva and Ujjwal, for joining us today. And thank you to all our lovely participants.
Thank you, Kiva.
Right.
Thank you, Kiva and team, everybody. All of you have a beautiful day. Good night and good evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.